So here we are now standing just inside the front doors of our house. We're in the entryway, looking back out towards the solar shed, the solar lab, Clementine the tractor, a little Kubota tractor, and my wife's studio. She has an amazing polarity and aesthetic studio, TheOffGridSpa.com. And this is a great chance to see sort of the change in the day. We had these blue skies coming, we had these blue skies all day, and now we've got this gray coming in, and you can kind of see a little bit of the shift. And these are the times of the day that we've learned over the last year or so, particularly last winter, is let's be aware of our power now. Let's be aware of what we have, of what we're using, and what we have coming up for weather and what we're going to need. And so some of the factors to take into account are, does Leah have a session? How many does she have? And what kind of power is she going to need for that? Because we want people to be warm and cozy, and we want her to have all the tools and resources that she has, heating towels and stones and really all that great stuff. And we want the kids to be able to live their life and have the access to what they need, the internet and television as best as we can. And so right now we start kind of paying attention to it. So we go from maybe what I would say is like this green light, we've got plenty of power, we're making plenty of power, tomorrow's great, to all right, more towards the yellow. Let's take some caution here. Today's supposed to gray out. Tomorrow might not be great. And if that's the case, this is sort of how our power walls break down. And I mentioned this before, is that we'll use one overnight, particularly in the winter, because overnight really means 16 hours. It's 4 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock in the next morning. And so it's a longer period that we're drawing from the battery. So we're using at least a power wall overnight. And really last night we used a little bit more than that. And then if it's a gray day and we're not going to produce anything, it's going to rain, or we'll produce very little, then we might use, another close to power wall's worth for the day. And then we might use that at night too. So let's say in a worst case scenario, if we're not making any adjustments to our power usage, energy consumption at all, 3 power walls is going to last us through a gray day and into that next day, but it better be sunny because we're going to need to recharge. And if it's not, we're going to wish that we had made some changes to our power usage at the previous time. So that leads us to, what do we do about it? And we have a main panel. There's a panel actually in the solar shed itself, and that kind of controls the gateway, the inverters, things that are pertinent and related to what we're running out of there. We also have a shutoff for the solar, for the electrical fence, for the animals and things like that, and that's all operated out of there. But there is a trench underground. It's just to the side of the tractor. We dug like a 4 or 5 foot trench underground, and that's where we ran power. We buried everything, and that comes into the corner of the house. And at the front of our house, just inside this foyer, I'm going to pull back for a minute, you could see we have our main electrical panel. So here's, I'm pulling back, these are our front doors. Here's our awesome lemon tree. Oh, got to take a minute to smell the lemons. Take a look at our awesome lemon growing. Really does make great lemons, and brought it inside. Leah does all the amazing tending to the plants, and I love having plants growing. I love the life, I love the growth, I love fruits. The fact that we have a lemon tree right now that's using this LED light that uses an unregisterable amount of power for right now. It's when we get into crunch time, that might be a different story, but it really isn't even registering for us right now. And it's on the same circuit that the fireplace fan is running. So we're going to leave that on. I'm going to show you what we're going to shut off. We have the full complement right now. This is sort of our breaker panel. And I've already preemptively shut some things off. I'm really going to show you what we leave on. So here you can kind of get the full arrangement of it, of what we've got going on. And I could run through it and show you what we've kind of left on here and what we've decided to shut off. So we leave obviously the 200 amp main stays on, and we leave the well pump on. We really want to make sure that we've got water to use, flush the toilets, take showers, run the sinks, all that good stuff. But other things like the AC, we're not using right now because the fireplace is keeping us so toasty. So we're at a comfortable 74 degrees, and we're going to be able to maintain that. So this draws a little bit of a power to the wall-mounted box that is the indicator, that kind of gives you the controls of the modes and the fan speed and that sort of thing. And we're just simply not using it, so we're going to shut it off. I am going to leave the bedrooms on because our girls are possibly charging devices right now, or They're going to be home in a little bit, and I don't want to tamper with anything because we're not in critical mode yet. So they can kind of decide or unplug when they get back. And so we'll leave the bedrooms on, but we will shut off the common bathrooms. The master floor bathroom heat we shut off. That draws a lot of power, and we don't often put that on. We found when I designed the house for that and put that in, I thought that would be some nice supplemental heat in the front corner of the house, particularly if the fireplace heat isn't reaching there. But we don't tend to use it that much because it is a big draw, and I've come to learn, easy to forget to turn off. And so we've got some other things here. The washer and the dryer both have ghost loads. Really great to turn those off because you'll definitely save some power there. The fridge stays on. So right now what we've left on is we left the well on and we've left the fridge on. And we've also left these living room, mudroom lights and plugs on because that powers our fireplace fan and then some other things that we have plugged in, some of the LED lighting, the grow lighting for the lemon tree and some of the other the vegetation and greenery we have in here. And so on that side, I mean, we've shut our master bedroom off, the dehumidifier off, everything's kind of off because we're either not using it or it's not important right now. Now here, we have a heat strip in the basement, and we don't really need that. It's warm enough in the house. It's warm enough outside. I tested it down there. I feel good that we're not going to freeze any pipes, so I'm going to go ahead and shut that off too. Studio sub panel. So you saw Leah's studio, and that has its own panel in it, and so that we can kind of micro control that. But for right now, we're going to leave the heat on because she has some clients coming up, and we want to make sure that they're super comfortable and that she has all the tools and resources she needs. So keep that on. The range can shut off. We don't need that pulling any loads. This is the upstairs air conditioning. The garage sub panel, another thing that'll stay on. We have a separate panel in the garage for that. And that'll control things like the internet in addition to the garage doors and plugs and things like that. So if we do have any DeWalt tools or anything like that, that's batteries that are plugged in, we can go ahead and we could shut those off from the garage sub panel. We don't even need to unplug them. Kitchen plugs, dishwasher, that pulls a load. Microwave pulls a load. The hood doesn't really pull any load, but we just kind of shut it down just in the scheme of everything. And that kind of, here's the Brady plug. So the Brady plug stays on. We have the ultimate luxury of having a heated toilet seat. And that is not a luxury that I'm willing to part with easily. So I leave that on until I really determine that power is going to be at a premium or an issue. And then I will begrudgingly shut that down. But that Brady plug right now is one of the important, clearly it's staying on with the well pump. So, priorities. So that's how we kind of control everything. I could just shut the panel right now. At first, when we were designing the house and we were bringing all the power in, it was like, do I want this right in the corner here? Do we want to hang something up? I got to tell you, having the control here to be able to turn off any of the switches, any of the breakers we need, to be able to troubleshoot anything, it's a real luxury, and I love having the access to it. I know that there are some smart panels out there that I would definitely consider and take a look at, and did, frankly. But when it came down to it, the mechanical option of being able to just turn these switches off and know that there's no power being drawn, that everything was kind of in our control, was definitely gave us a lot of satisfaction and peace of mind. And so now when we put our power down, when we shut off like that, we're going to be drawing about 0.4 kilowatts. And so at that point, if we're drawing 0.4 kilowatts an hour, we're drawing 4 kilowatts every 10 hours. If we have 40, we're looking at about 40 hours without any sunshine, without anything, that we'll be able to kind of keep our system going strong. So, but that's where after we run out of that, after we're sort of getting through a couple of days, 48 hours, we've pushed it a little more than that because we can really get down to about 200 watts running our house with just the fan on minimal and just the fridge kind of cycling on minimal too. But after really those 2.5 days, that's where we need more power. And that's frankly one of the challenges of being off grid is that we have to bring that power in ourselves. So figuring out some ways to do that, definitely, I've said it in almost every video, looking at vehicle to load, putting in a manual transfer switch. So I'm going to do a quick video on that because we're going to have that all set up, and then we're going to go from there. But here's just how you see, in a general sense, when we see the gray skies coming in and we're humming along and we're making a lot of power, it might actually be time to take a little stock and inventory and be like, you know what, what do we need our power for? What should we save it for? And then in the worst case scenario, we ended up with a little bit extra. Rather have, when it comes to power, one thing that I've learned living out here on the off-grid farm is I'd rather have a little extra power than a little less power. So with that being said, hope you guys have enough energy, have enough power for your day, for yourselves. Good luck out there. I'm going to do some more videos. This has been a wonderful learning curve. It's getting gray and it's going to rain, and I will check in hopefully when we've still got plenty of power and everything's going great. So until then, definitely catch up with you next time. Be well, everybody.